Okay, thanks for reminding me.
You're welcome, Tina. Baba's return trip to India from the West in February 1935 had not been pleasant. In Vancouver, Baba caught a severe cold, almost bronchitis, with a chill, and he was still ill when he reached Meherabad. Moreover, he had bleeding gums on board ship, and in Singapore, he had a loose tooth extracted. Still recovering from this, he had two molars extracted at Lower Meherabad on the day he arrived. Baba indicated many times to the Mandali that since he was both human and God, such illnesses were the physical manifestations of the suffering he had to undergo for the purification of his followers and and the world. The women saw to his comfort and nursed him with fomentations.
What are fomentations?
I'm guessing, herbal uh, uh, herbal stews.
Oh, well, that could be.
Gulmai stayed at Meherabad for some days, attending to him until he recovered. Baba was made to inhale smoke from garlic skins that the women toasted over a cow dung fire.
Oh, no.
And in parentheses, an Ayurvedic method of relieving sinus congestion. Other allopathic remedies were administered as well. Someone suggested drinking milk from a black cow, the theory being that they absorb the most rays from the sun and
Oh,
produce more vitamin D. So a black cow was brought up the hill. The cow was fortunate that Baba drank milk from her, Mehera said. Baba was fasting on milk at that time. He fasted on fruit juice once too, but it gave him diarrhea. Yet he didn't care for his health. His work always came first. Baba could not walk outside because of the cold air, so he paced up and down the women's room for exercise. And there they proudly showed him the frame of photos they had made. Baba was pleased and remarked that it was done beautifully. He said he would have it hung on the wall in their room, and he had the men come and do it when the women were not present. Mani had a small box camera, and when Baba was feeling better, he sometimes posed for her. She took his photo with the black cows with the black cow's white calf,
hmm.
for example. In the early years, Baba bathed himself, but in the summer of 1935, he let the women assist with his bath. The women also shampooed his hair. For some time, Franey did it, and then Baba told Mehera to do it. And the sidebar says Baba always wore his chadis or lengas when the women were present, and changed out of them after they left.
Mhm.
Mara brushed Baba's hair as it was drying. After it was washed, Baba's hair curled so sweetly like a baby's, all fluffy, fluffy round his head. Baba wanted it brushed. He didn't want it curling on his shoulders. When I brushed Baba's hair, I used to nibble on his ear at times. Really.
Mhm.
One day, after Baba had washed his hair, I remember seeing a light from the window shining behind his head. His golden hair looked like a beautiful halo. Mara never cut Baba's hair in the early days. There was no need to. Baba had curly hair, so it got pushed up and bunched around his shoulders. But Baba walked up and down the hill all day and his hair blew in his eyes. It bothered him. Baba's hair was always worn open. There was so much breeze at Meherabad, his hair flew all over. He pushed it back behind his ears, but again it would come out. Sometimes Baba wrapped a scarf of fine blue cotton round his head. You know, could you scroll, please? Round his head. At other times, Mara tied his hair with a ribbon. When Baba wore a scarf, said Mani, he would tie it up so nonchalantly, but the effect heart could be breathtaking, very effective, every time differently. One day in 1935, as he sat on his table in the kitchen at Upper Meherabad, Baba told Mara to tie his hair in a braid. We liked the idea of braiding Baba's hair as it was flying all over. I was braiding mine, so I knew how to do it. Baba looked so sweet in short hair. So from then onwards, Baba always had his hair braided. Every day I brushed and braided Baba's hair in the corner of the kitchen while Baba was seated on the table. I would stand so I could reach him easily. After doing the braid, Baba's nape of the neck was so sweet. The nape was bare. Baba's skin was fair. He had lovely skin. The back of the nape was like a child's, like a baby's, so sweet. I did steal a kiss from there.
Mm.
One morning at Upper Meherabad, in the kitchen, I was standing in the corner near Baba. I had given him something. I looked at him to see what he was doing. Does he want to leave? I saw him seated on the table so quietly. Baba looked so dear and beautiful to me. I could not resist touching him. His smooth cheeks looked so lovely after shaving, so smooth and silky. Somehow it always attracted me. I came near. I didn't know how to embrace him. I felt so much love that I put my cheek on Baba's cheek and pressed my cheek against his for quite a few seconds. Baba just sat there. I looked up in his eyes. He looked straight at me with such a tender, loving look in his eyes. It was very beautiful. Sometimes when you felt that way, you wanted to kiss and embrace Baba. I still remember that. It has remained in my mind all this time.
And there he is. Baba seated on Mara's bed in the East Room at Upper Marazad. Mara and Khorshid outside the East Room in Upper Meherabad in the mid-1930s. Mara by Baba's Gadi, East Room, Upper Meherabad. Meherabad.
So I guess the Gadi is like a kind of elevated seating platform.
I guess so. 12 photos, photo frame of Baba decorated by Mara and the other women. It's drilling outside my window. Can you hear it?
No.
Okay, good. There's Mara with Champa the donkey. She's in Upper Meherabad. And Meherabad Zoo. Would you like to read that, Rosalie?
Yeah. When Meher Baba had returned from Europe in August 1934, he brought the women birds of various species that his lovers in the West had given him. The birds were kept in a large decorative cage with delicate bars. The cage had a separate area on top, like another story on a house with small lovebirds in it. Then, before leaving for the West in November the same year, Baba brought 2 snow white rabbits with pink eyes that someone had given him. Mara and the others happily cuddled them, and so did Baba, who told the women to raise them. The rabbits grew up, and shortly before Baba's return from the West, they had babies.
Mm.
Mara said, "We were so happy with the tiny babies. They looked just like their mommy." When Baba arrived in February 1935, at first the women did not let him know about the, quotes, new additions, end quote. Baba washed his face and shaved, and before breakfast, they brought a covered tray and placed it in front of him. Baba was seated on his table in the kitchen. He took off the cover and looked so surprised. We had placed the 5 or 6 tiny baby rabbits on the tray and decorated each with a miniature bow. He was so happy to see them. He hugged and patted each one. Some jumped out and we put them back again. The rabbits had fur, so lovely and cute. Baba loved animals very much. He played with them for quite some time and then told us to feed them. I need more words. We brought something and Baba fed them also. Then he had his breakfast. The rabbits were kept in the small storeroom next to their room where Mani had trimmed Baba's mustache. At first, in the afternoon, while the women were sewing or working on Baba's photos, they brought the 2 rabbits in their room to their room. They ran under the table or behind our trunk. We put down some lucerne grass, alfalfa, and water and let them feed. We watched and played with them. Of course, we had to clean up after them also. They made a mess on the floor. When the mother rabbit got pregnant, the women became worried that she might eat some of her babies. But Shireen Mai, who was visiting, knew about raising rabbits from a tribal woman who had given her a tip. If the newborns were kept inside a broken earthenware chati where no one could see them, they would be all right, she said. The chati was brought and earth placed inside it. When the mother was, need more words. When the mother was ready to give birth, she went inside, and after her babies were born, she went to feed them. She went in to feed them. The women left the chati in the room, and 3 months later, more babies were born. The rabbits began to multiply so quickly that soon the storeroom was filled with them. Their servant, Bagu, had to wash the room daily. Whenever there were newborns, we brought them to Baba. He fondled them all. They were lucky Baba touched them. But with so many rabbits, in the end, we got fed up and told Baba, and all the rabbits were given away. With summer approaching and Baba's health still not robust, to avoid the extreme heat of Meherabad, on 4th March, he and both the men and women Mandali moved back to Nasik. They traveled in 2 buses. Baba rode with the women in a bus driven by Kalingad. Dalit Mai, who had been visiting, rode in the second bus with Frainie's infant son, Behram, Baba's brother Jal, and 2 more of the men. Oh, they were all together. The cage of Western birds was taken also. In Nasik, they acquired other animals when Baba was advised to drink goat's milk for his health, and a goat and her kid were brought. He drank the goat's milk and fed her also when she pestered him for bran biscuits or chapatis. Baba enjoyed feeding the pair, and several photos were taken. Baba was delighted the moment the goat came and would run to feed her. On 16th April, I have to say that's Charlie Chaplin's birthday. On 16th April, Baba went with the men to a mountain bungalow to regain his health. But when urgent letters arrived from the West requiring his presence in Nasik, he was on the move again in the heat. On 9 May, he and the men and women Manjali moved back to Meherabad, where he talked of going into seclusion for a year, somewhere in the Himalayas. In Meherabad, the wooden poles of the Tata passageway from the women's room to the kitchen were loose. Wait a minute. Okay. In Meherabad, the wooden poles of the Tata passageway from the women's room to the kitchen were loose and cracks had developed in them. Early one afternoon, when Baba and Gulmai were walking together through the passageway, the girls following them, a small cobra emerged from a crack and coiled itself around the pole. Baba had stopped right next to it. The cobra fell and slithered across the passage, startling Baba and the others. Mani and Naja ran for sticks and killed it. Another day, when Baba came for his lunch early, the women were busy in the kitchen. Baba called Mehera, put his hand in his pocket, and said, "Take this quickly." He pulled out a scrawny baby parrot that had fallen from its nest. It had no feathers and a huge red beak. Mehera remarked, "Baba, he's so ugly." Baba said, "No, keep it. When it grows up, it will be a beautiful parrot." Baba had two more tiny green parrots in his pocket. He called Mani and gave her the second bird, and Khorshid was given the third. Baba instructed them to feed the parrots well. He himself was eager to feed them. That first day, he said to bring chickpea flour and mix it with a little ghee, out of which he made pellets. The parrots were hungry and shrieked, "Chee, chee, chee." Baba fed all three. In fact, he overfed them. Every day, Mehera put a cloth over Baba's lap and the birds were placed there. Baba stuffed food down their gullets and then stroked their throats to make it go down. The birds loved it, but afterwards they had had so much they groaned from indigestion. Before Baba had fed them, they squawked because they were hungry. Now they squawked because they were too full. Baba said with a worried look, "Their stomachs shouldn't be upset. Give them a walk." The birds were put on the floor and Baba pushed them along with his finger. "Come on, walk," the women said. The birds continued to groan. Baba then said, "Now turn them around from the other side of the room." I need more words.
Oh, sorry.
From the other side of the room, the women coaxed them towards Baba. In the east room, Mani recalled, 3 of us would stand behind these ugly lumps of flesh with a finger or pencil and bending over, prod them on their tails. "Chal, come on, chal." Like chalo, chalo, we would say. After the parrots had completed 2 rounds up and down, Baba said, "They will be all right now. Put them in a basket." Later, an enormous brass cage was brought and they were kept there. Mani said that she and Mehera were thrilled when Baba first gave them the birds, but we weren't so thrilled afterwards, looking after them. Caring for Baba's pets was no joke either. Baba lavished so much love, attention, and food on them. The wretched creatures knew where to turn, wail, and complain against us. After we had fed the birds so thoroughly, Baba would walk in and they would immediately go, "Oh," and open their mouths wide like handbags. Baba would look at us and say, "That bird is hungry." More words, please. What are you doing about it?" We would say, "Baba, we just fed it." Baba said, "But if you just fed it, what is it doing now?" We told the bird, "You would, wouldn't you?" Baba fed them every day, Mehera added, and gave them a walk. They opened their mouths like suitcases as wide as they could, squawking for food. Mehera remembered that one of the birds would take a hot chili in its beak by the stem and cavort around the cage. It looked very sweet, like it was carrying an umbrella, though the parrots screeched and never learned to talk. They were friendly. And true to Baba's words, they grew up to be attractive. At first, the baby parrots were so ugly, Monty said, lots of flesh and big red beaks. They had no feathers, only stubble. But after a while, they looked so beautiful and elegant, like parrots you see in Persian paintings on the finger of a princess. One day, when the birds had grown up a bit and were ready to fly, the women went with Baba out of their room. They never forgot how Baba held the birds aloft on his finger. The birds jumped on top of the Tata passageway and turned around immediately, as if on a military maneuver of some kind, like a drill they had practiced. The birds faced Baba, looking at him. Baba waved his hand, gesturing. Fly away! With split-second timing, all three flew away together, high up in the sky. Miney recalled, we stood there looking till they were just a speck. They looked so lovely, a line of beauty and color.
I wish like they had pictures of them.
Yeah. 3 baby mynas, starlings, were kept on the hill during one period. Mara said, once a myna made a nest in the caves of our roof.
The eaves of our roof.
Eaves. We were working in the kitchen and didn't know. Tani, a servant who was employed to sweep the compound and fill the water tank, saw it and told us that there were 3 baby mynas with no feathers that had fallen to the ground. We told her to quickly put them back in the nest. She got a letter and did so. After a little while, Tani came inside and told us they were again on the ground. We found out that the mother wasn't there. She must have died in the night. Perhaps a cat took her away. Nearby was another myna's nest. That myna came and took these chicks and threw them down. Baba said to keep them. We started out giving them ghee and chickpea flour, but Baba said to give them high protein so they would learn to fly quickly. Mynas do not eat mutton or beef, so the women wondered what to feed them. Usually they eat grasshoppers and other insects, but the women had no time to hunt for these. The servants brought centipedes and worms, and Naja caught a rat and cut it up.
Oh,
Then she killed the scorpion, cut off its tail, cut it into small pieces, and fed it to the birds with coal tongs. They relished it. The servants were sent to scour the surrounding fields for insects. They relished it. The servants were sent, wait a minute, they lifted stones and brought more scorpions in a Brook Bond tea box. Dozens were found for the birds, baby snakes also. It was an unending effort to keep the hungry fledglings fed. Sidebar says, once when the women were outside searching for bird fodder, they saw some newly born scorpions, which were so tiny that at first they mistook them for ants. Mara continued, these ordinary mynas are watchkeepers. The other birds rely on their warning call, which is not very sweet. When they call out, other birds know there is danger. Someone told us that if they didn't have protein in their diet, these particular birds get lame. So because of the birds, Meherabad was cleaned of scorpions for the future. Otherwise, the scorpions would have multiplied. This was one of the ways Baba used to clean up Meherabad. The mynas, which were non-speaking, grew up to be handsome, dark brown birds. At first, the birds were kept in their bedroom, but once they could fly and hunt for food themselves, they were taken outside and freed. 2 of the birds flew away, but one of them remained perched on the roof. It had gotten so tame, it did not want to fend for itself, or probably liked the diet it was getting. Baba was walking up the hill that day. Suddenly, the bird flew down and landed on Baba's shoulder. Mehera recalled, there was Baba with his flowing hair and sadra, with the bird on his shoulder. It wouldn't fly. It wouldn't fly away till Baba fed it. Baba came into the kitchen. He was so impatient. It's hungry. Quick, quick, bring something. Baba took the bird on his finger and fed it bread and cream. Baba usually found these birds on the ground, said Mani, as he was on his way up the hill. They had fallen out of a nest. Sometimes the mother bird had let the strong baby stay and had pushed out the littlest one. We would get a ladder and put it back in. When the mother bird tried to teach her babies to fly, some would fall in the water tank. We would take them out, dry them, and hold them near the fire. First, we took them to Baba, of course. Baba would hold these birds and look at them with such love, like an old friend. He would pet each bird and blow it kisses. That was the most important part for us. Each bird should receive his touch. After they were a little bigger, they would fly away. Mehera continued, when Baba was traveling in the West, he knew we would be lonely. He wanted us to be occupied, so he, at different times, brought Brahmi birds, sparrows, mynas, canaries, and salangus in our room. There was nothing except our beds, but our one trunk. Mani's writing table near her bed and 4 bird cages. In the mornings, we had to do all our chores and then look after the baby parrots and mynas, cleaning their cages and feeding them. We never walked around our compound in those days. We only went outside when caring for these pet birds who needed to be in the sun for some time. 4 biscuit-colored black-capped salangus that sang sweetly were kept in a single large cage. Khorshid was given the duty of cleaning their cage, which had different perches and swings. Every morning she placed the birds in the sun, cleaned the cage, and later put it back in their bedroom for the night. After about 2 months, Khorshid cut her finger on a sharp edge of the cage. To avoid infecting it, Mehera and Mani volunteered to clean the cage that day. They brought the cage outside and did everything methodically. We were very proud. We will do it better than Khorshid. They cleaned it well and tied a bit of coriander solid to one side for the birds to nibble at. Fresh bird feed was placed inside. The water changed, and they even polished the cage. When they finished, they went into the kitchen to begin cooking. Baba was down the hill and was late that day. He had said that they should eat by 11 o'clock, so the women started without him. As they were having their lunch, Tani came in and said, "The Salunkis are on the roof."
Mm.
The Langus are indigenous to the area, so the women did not give it much thought and said, "Fine, let them be there." "No, our Salunkis from the cage."
Mm.
Mara and Mani leapt up to their feet and saw that the cage was empty. We had done everything so perfectly except to shut the door.
Ah.
Both nervously returned to the kitchen, anxious and tense about how Baba would take their mistake. When he came, he reprimanded them a bit. Why were you so careless? You could clean it so well, but not shut the doors? "Baba, we forgot," they said. "Both of you forgot?" he asked, surprised. "All right, never mind. Let them go free." The Sakta family of Akbar Press, devoted Baba lovers, had given Baba, more words, please.
I'm trying.
Had given Baba a mixed breed puppy whom Baba called Chum. Khorshid and Masi, soon a Masi, fed the pup, but sometimes Baba fed it also on his bed with a piece of bread dipped in dal. Whenever Baba was eating in the kitchen, too, he called Chum and gave him something from his plate. Once, after Baba had eaten, he was resting on the mattress on his table with his eyes closed. The pup was very protective of him and lay down on the floor near the table by Baba's sandals. The women were seated quietly around Baba on their stools. Mani reached over to pet Chum, who did not know who it was. Chum raised his head in surprise and bit her on the chin. Baba got up and asked what had happened. He was furious with Chum. Jumping down from the table, Baba hit the dog until his hand turned pink. Then he picked up his sandals and hit him again harder. Only from Baba did Chum accept such punishment. Wow. Although her chin bled much, Mani was all right. They cleansed her wound, and Baba said that she did not have to have the anti-rabies injections as Chum had been vaccinated. Chum landed Naja into trouble another day when Baba brought a small stuffed gray fox to the kitchen that someone had given him. He showed it to the women and they placed it out of the way, high up on the clerestory windowsill for safekeeping. After they had eaten, Baba wished to lie down for a short nap, which meant no one should make the slightest sound. He lay down on his pillow and everyone was quiet. Chum was again on the floor next to him. Curious as to Chum's reaction to the fox, Naja, who was restless by nature, went to the window, took down the stuffed animal, brought it near the dog, and whispered, "Choo choo, Chum." Chum opened one eye, then both, then barked and bit the fox. He would not let go of its neck and tore it open. We couldn't believe our eyes. Mehera said. Baba got up and asked what was going on. All the stuffing from the fox was flying everywhere. We went too far a little.
Oh.
Was flying everywhere. Baba was upset with Naja for trying this game while he was resting. "What is all this?" he asked her. "I said not to make a sound." "Baba, I just showed Chum the fox. He made all the noise." "But why did you get up from your seat?" From that day on, whenever Baba asked for absolute silence, the women quickly warned Naja, "Now don't do any choo-choo," meaning some something out of place that would disturb the atmosphere or cause a commotion. Chum grew into a large dog and continued to be quite attached to Baba. He was jealous whenever anyone stepped forward, and he growled when Mehera and others approached Baba. Baba then stopped allowing him inside the kitchen during meal times. At night, Baba instructed Walu to take Chum to Jamadar, the night watchman, where he would get practice keeping watch. Walu, who was fond of animals, carried Chum over. After a year of this, Chum still wanted to be carried every night. He knew when it was evening and time to go. By then, however, he was too heavy, so Walu brought a leash for him. Chum proved to be an intrepid watchdog. One morning around 9 o'clock, when Walu was in the garden, she saw a cobra in their compound and shouted for Naja to bring a large staff. The cobra hid in the jasmine bower. They forced it out, and Chum was so bold he chased it. They tried to hit the snake on the ground, but it crawled half outside the barbed wire fence. Chum grabbed its tail and pulled it back inside, where Walu struck it on the back and killed it. They told Baba about it later. Mehera commented, "I couldn't have killed it. I'm like my mother, not brave at all." Mani, on the other hand, had always held romantic notions about snakes. And the sidebar says, though Mehera had killed scorpions, she never killed a snake in her life. Mani, on the other hand, had always held romantic notions about snakes. She had read about women who kept pythons as pets and imagined the huge reptiles writhing over her arms. So when Baba mentioned keeping a snake, Mani eagerly volunteered for the job. It was a tiny green grass snake, pretty and delicate. Mani fed it, gave it water, and kept it in their room with them. She had made a glass case for it. Oh, my Lord. But every now and then the snake escaped. She had to search under the bed and behind the trunks until at last it was found. Once, when she hauled it out from behind the trunk, something peculiar happened. The snake became as stiff as a rod or stick. This lasted for a few seconds, and then it was back to its normal state. She told Baba, and he indicated that his work with the snake was over. Baba asked Mani if she liked having the snake as a pet. Mani now said no, so Baba gave it to the Mandali, who let it go. Okay, I'm turning it over to you, Tina.
Okay. Where did you leave off?
When Naja put out her hand. Oh, wait, no.
Then someone
the fawn, yeah.
Then someone brought a fawn to Meherabad. Baba led it into the women's room, tied on a rope. He sat on his gadi and patted the deer, telling the women it would to bring something for it to eat. The deer was tame, and Baba told each of the girls to pet it. When Naja put her hand out, however, the fawn would not let herself be touched. Naja turned to go out of the room, and the deer charged forward and butted Naja from behind. Baba and the others laughed over the incidents. It does seem the deer does not like something about you, Naja, they teased. The deer slipped to its knees, but soon it was up, its head bent, ready to butt Naja again. They did not keep the fawn after that, not because of Naja, but because Chum was there, and it would have been risky to keep it with him around. Once an owl was nesting in their roof. As the women came and went to the kitchen, it peered down on them with big green eyes. Baba pointed it out and said, "Look how it's watching us. It's not afraid." Mara had said that it had a nest there with baby owls in it. Another day, Baba came with baby squirrels in his pocket that had dropped from their nest. And once he gave the women a mongoose as well. It was not easy to look after all these pets. As Mani noted, Baba wanted as much attention and perfect care given to the birds and the pets as he did humans. For example, a mongoose got pneumonia. Baba instructed the women to put an antiphlogistin plaster on its chest. Sometimes they had to give each of the baby parrots laxatives, the kind a human would take. Each bird and animal Baba had was representative. Baba would be very upset if anything happened to these animals or birds he was working through. We didn't ask Baba why and the why and the what of his work. He didn't want that. We didn't ask. There was no room for questions. Honestly, Baba is so much that there is no room for things like that. Later on, the last thing Baba did every evening before retiring to his cabin was to visit every pet in his pen, box, or room. Each one received his loving care before he slept. An antiphlogistin is an agent that decreases or limits inflammation. Typically, it is a paste that is heated and put on the chest. Once, when Baba was seated at the table, he gave the women an explanation about human and animal consciousness. Baba closed his eyes and then opened them slightly, saying, just a slit, saying, when the eyes are barely open, you can only see that broom on the floor. He opened his eyes a little more and he continued, now if you see the calendar on the wall a little wider, now you see the tin on the shelf, wider still. Now the picture on the shelf, above the shelf, fully open, the ceiling. Baba, likewise, with consciousness, animals see only part of the picture. The eyes do not open fully until you are a human being. Baba made a V with his index and middle fingers and then rotated them near his eyes, but your sight must turn inward. You have been absorbed with things outside, the broom, the calendar, the photograph, and so on, and you don't see your real self inside. And there's a picture of the water tank building and Baba's cabin in Upper Meherabad, 1935. Feeding one of the miners in the East Room, Upper Meherabad. Mehra, Baba, Gulmai, Khorshid, and Frani in Nasik, 1935. Mehra, let's see. I don't know which one Mara is.
Oh, right there. She's to Baba's right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's Mehera.
Mhm.
And that's Gulmai. I guess Gulmai is to his left. And can you put it down a little? No, I mean the other way.
Khorshid and Franey.
Franey. Yeah, I can't see it here. Okay, Franey is on the right
Mhm.
and Khorshid is on the left there.
Okay. Thank you, Rosalie. Meherabad Zoo. Outside the East Room, Upper Meherabad. Eastern side of Meherabad Hill, 1936.
I have to say, this is great fun reading about the zoo. This was the best.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh.
that was a good one.
And you know, Narina had to take care of Jumpu the monkey. I think she had to put a diaper on him.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. He was big.
Who, Eugene, you want to pick up reading the Blood Oath?
Chapter 30, Blood Oath. In June 1935, Meher Baba and 3 of the Mandalay left Meherabad for Mount Abu in Rajasthan, where Baba intended to go into a year's seclusion, which he indicated later had to do with the Great War that was coming. But on 20 June, he declared his work there finished. To keep the link, he returned immediately to Meherabad, where he went into seclusion on 15 July in a newly constructed tin cabin on the hill next to his tomb. Mehera remembered Baba fasting during part of this seclusion. While the cabin was being built, Baba ordered the women to remain in their room, even though the men were working outside their compound gate. In addition, he ordered them not to speak above a whisper while the men were on the hill working. When the cabin was ready and Baba entered his seclusion, he instructed the women not to go near it. Walu was the exception. She brought drinking water, aired his blankets and sheets in the sun, and when he was no longer fasting, brought his meal once a day on a tray from Mehera. Once, Walu inadvertently stepped inside the tin cabin when Baba was engrossed in his work, and his gaze fell upon her. Walu's eyes became bloodshot, and she was blinded for 3 days.
Wow.
Gulmai interceded with Baba to forgive her mistake, and Walu's sight was restored. But all now knew that the forces released during Baba's seclusion work were very powerful, and it was dangerous to disturb him while he was working. On 28 July, Baba began suffering constant, severe stomach pain, which continued for 3 days. He kept repeating, "I shall have to suffer now and then in this and other ways until the war begins." Baba's cabin had a small satrunji, a cotton carpet, with a cushion so that he could lean against the wall. He sat on the carpet to do seclusion work, but there was also a bed with a mosquito net where he slept at night. Oh, I missed an asterisk earlier that said Bao Kalchuri, Lord Mayor, online page 1689, referring to the sentence, shall have to suffer now and then in this and other ways until the war begins. To be inside such a small cabin, not eating on silence, all this tells on the body, Mehera said sadly. Even after his work, Baba did not step out. He opened the door, but he did not come out.
Mhm.
When his fast ended, Baba sent instructions to the women to send plain rice and dal and some days later, curry and rice, as well as potato patties and chapatis. Mehera helped Naja fry the patties, and they were taken to Baba. He ate them, but then dictated this message to Mehera and Naja on his board. The patties were tasteless, hopeless, and doomless, meaning flat or lifeless. We had been so proud of ourselves that we had made nice patties. Let me read the sidebar there. Doom means breath in Gujarati. Doomless is an example of how Baba mixed Gujarati and English words together.
Interesting. I think we could stop here.
Yeah.
Top of 308.
I'm gonna write it down.
Yeah, I have to say, Baba was his use with words and the double meaning. And I love this quote. It says, I cannot rest unless I work. When I work, that is my rest. My work is in restlessness.
That's great. That's a great quote.
I actually told Dr. Kenmore when Kenmore left India one time, and Baba says, leave your spirit in Marazad. Take your mind and body to New York. Inwardly eat only Baba. Outwardly steaks and pork.
That's a good quote. Yeah, Rosalie, I'm coming down there for the
Okay.
holidays.
Oh, you won it again.
Yeah, I always get it.
Oh no. Good.
So I'll see you.
Good. Yeah. I have to celebrate now that I'm settled in my new place. But
Yeah.
Jay, Papa, this was wonderful. I love hearing about this.
Yeah. Well, we'll see you all next week.
Good.
Jai Baba.
Jay Baba, Tina. Jay Baba, Eugene.
Bye bye.
Thank you, girls. Bye.